Hello students, welcome back to the tetrahedron chemistry classes. So guys, in today's class I am going to discuss very simple aspects of periodic properties which you have already studied in your class 11th. Okay, and see the topic which actually I am going to take today is first is actually your atomic radii. So what is the meaning of the atomic radii? So it will not make any difference if you say the atomic radii or the atomic radii or the atomic size, both are same. Okay, so we'll try to learn the concept actually, what this atomic radii means actually. For example, say you are having any atom. I am taking, say I am having say carbon. Okay, I am having this carbon which is having the atomic number of 6. If you write the electronic configuration, then it is 2,4. If you simply draw the picture of the atom of this carbon atom, so in the center you see I am writing C here, and this C you may consider as the nucleus of the carbon, and this is the first shell. Okay, and this is the second shell of the carbon. Okay, you know this is the first shell, which is K shell, and this is L shell. So in the K shell you are having the 2 electrons. Say one electron is this one and another electron is this one. Okay, and then in the L shell you are having another 2 electron, and you can fill those electron like that. Say 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is the simplest picture of the carbon atom. Now what is the atomic radii? So atomic radii is nothing but it is the distance, actually this particular distance, which starts from the nucleus of the carbon and goes up to the outermost electron. So this distance is basically your atomic radii. Okay, this distance is known as the atomic radii. Fine. So by definition is what? The distance between the nucleus and the outermost electron of an atom is called the atomic radii. Okay, and now say if you are having this atomic radii, and suppose then you are having another species. Say you are having sodium ion, Na positive, right? You are having the sodium positive. You know the sodium is having the atomic number of 11. If it lost 1 electron, that means it will have the 8 electron. So the configuration would be just like that, 2,8. So now again the same thing. Say this is the nucleus of the sodium, and this is your first shell, which is your K shell. Okay, and this is your L shell. So your K shell is having 2 electron again, and then you are having second L shell, and this shell is also having the 8 electron. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is actually positively charged. This is sodium positive. Okay, this is ion. Basically it is cation. You know the species which are having the positive charge on it, they are known as the cation. So if you want to know the ionic radii of this cation, so what you will do, you will take the distance between the nucleus of this sodium ion and this outermost electron. You may take this outermost electron, you may take this outermost electron. Out of 8 electrons you can take any of one actually. So in an ion, the ionic radii is the distance between the nucleus and the outermost electron. Okay, outermost electron, which the electron which is present on the outermost shell. And say now if you have another thing, say for example you are having fluorite, F negative. You know F negative, fluorine is having the atomic number of 9. Now it is having 1 negative over there, so it will have the total 10 electrons. Again the configuration would remain same, that is 2, 8. So if you want to draw this one, say this is F negative, this is the nucleus of the fluorine. So this is K shell and this is the L shell, and again you can fill the electron on it, 1 and 2, and remaining 8 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is anion. This is what? Anion. The species which are having negative charge over there, they are known as the anion. So if you want to know the ionic radii of this anion, so what you will do, you will take the distance from the nucleus to the outermost electrons, right? And that distance would be your ionic radii, right? This is your ionic radii and this is your ionic radii. So this is the concept of the atomic radii and ionic radii. When you consider the atom, then it would be the atomic radii. If you consider the ion, then it would be the ionic radii, and ionic radii can be of two types. Okay, see, you may have the cation, you may have the anion, right? This is the basic simple concept actually, but this is not enough to know. This is not enough to know. Why this is not enough? You know, we cannot isolate atom, right? Isolation of atom is very, very difficult. We cannot isolate, we can't isolate atom or ion. Okay, so we cannot isolate atom or ion, and when we cannot isolate atom or ion, then how we can go for the measurement, how we can know all these things? So for this, what actually we do actually, right? So we actually take the different kinds of the radii. So what different kinds of the radii we will take, we will discuss one by one. Say first I am taking the atomic radii, and here in that case, this atomic radii I am calling it as covalent radii. Covalent radii. So when we say the covalent radii, it simply means the molecule is covalently bonded. Basically, this covalent radii is defined for the non-metals. This you should know. Defined for the non-metals. Okay, non-metal means you may have the chlorine, okay, you may have the fluorine, all these things, you may have the nitrogen, okay, because they form the covalent bond between them. Okay, say I am taking this example of chlorine actually, right? So what will happen actually, say this is the chlorine and this is the chlorine, and this is the total bond distance. This is the bond distance, okay, and this bond distance is basically your 198 picometer. This bond distance is 98 picometer, which is known as the bond length. Okay, so if you want to know the radii of your chlorine, atomic radii of the chlorine, so what you will do actually in that case, you will write, say for example, I am writing RCl, okay, and that would be your bond distance between Cl and Cl divided by 2. What is the meaning of that? I'll take 198 and divide it by 2, getting this value of 99 picometer. So this 99 picometer is the covalent radii of the chlorine. So what is the general formula actually to calculate this one? And this formula actually I have given here. You see, R equals to D by 2, where D is what? The bond length or the bond distance. Okay, so see why this happens actually, because say this is the chlorine, this is another chlorine, and we cannot isolate a single chlorine. So we will take this molecule actually. So this distance from one nucleus to other nucleus, this is actually the total bond length, and when we divide this total bond length by 2 actually, if we bisect in that manner, right, in that manner. So this particular distance, the single one, it is known as the covalent radii. Okay, so see, so what would be the definition? 1/2 of the bond distance bonded together by a covalent bond is known as the covalent radii. This is very, very simple. But the problem is that this is quite simple when we have the homonuclear diatomic molecules. These all are homonuclear diatomic molecules. Homonuclear diatomic. So what is the meaning of the homonuclear diatomic? Diatomic means 2 atoms are involved, just like that, and homo means both are of identical kind. But the problem is that, what is the problem? When you have the different kind of the species, say for example, you are having HBr. So this is another covalent compound, and you know every, see, in your polarization and the Fazan's rule, I have already explained, every covalent bond will have some ionic character. This is something very, very important. Every covalent bond will have some ionic character, and this ionic character would be significant when we have the heteronuclear diatomic molecules. So in that case, actually what will happen, due to this ionic character, the bond length actually is not just the half of the bond distance. See, your covalent radii is not just the half of the bond length actually when we have the heteronuclear diatomic species, because they have the some ionic character. Due to the ionic character, actually the bond length decreases. When the bond length decreases, what will happen? The ionic radii also decreases. So for this, actually what we do generally, say we can take covalent radii. I am writing it as A, R, A, B. So you can consider this A, you can consider this B. Okay, this is how you can write. So for this, you have a formula which was given by some expert actually, right? And that formula is your Ra plus Rb minus 0.09 chi A minus chi B. This is something very, very important. Okay, so this is the formula given by certain expert. Unfortunately, I didn't remember that particular name. Okay, but it's not good actually. We should remember the name of the experts who contributed in the field, right? Sorry for that. So this is the formula. So Ra is the radii of atom A, Rb is the radii of the atom B, 0.09 is a your constant, and chi A is the electronegativity of atom A, and chi B is the electronegativity of the atom B. So this is how you can calculate, right? But later on, this formula actually also modified by certain expert, and fortunately I remembered that name, right? Porterfied, actually Porterfied or Porterfied, name of the expert is Porterfied. He actually changed this formula to certain other formula, Rab, that is equals to Ra plus Rb minus 0.07 times chi A minus chi B square, right? So if you have been given these things, these parameters, then you can calculate the radii of any atom actually, right, which you have given actually. So these things actually, these things are very, very important. So the conclusion is that, what is the conclusion? Due to the ionic character present in the heteronuclear diatomic molecules, right, which we have studied in the Fazan's rule, okay, the bond length, actually the bond length is the shorter than the sum of the covalent radii of the two individual atoms, right? So you will remember this particular point. If you are comparing BR, then obviously this would be different. If you are comparing HH, then these two would be different. So these are the things which you should know actually. Okay, so this is the concept of the covalent radii when you have the covalent bond. But another type of the radii is very common, right? And that is your, say, okay, unfortunately this picture is not quite good, so please, okay, I have increased the size. Okay, so next actually I am going to discuss is van der Waals radii. Van der Waals radii. So see, initially we have seen the covalent radii, and in this particular picture, if you see, this part is actually your covalent radii. Covalent, it is actually the distance, covalent distance or total bond distance, and this part is actually, which is shown by the black, is the covalent radii. Okay, now if you want to know the concept of the covalent radii, then you should know the important thing. See, these van der Waals forces are the secondary forces. Van der Waals forces are secondary forces. They are not actually primary bond. They are actually secondary forces. What is the meaning of the secondary forces? There is no involvement of the electrons in it actually, right? They depend on the surface area. Van der Waals forces depends on the surface area, and when you are talking about the van der Waals forces, then it simply means you are talking about the noble gases. Basically, it is defined for the noble gases. This is something very, very important. Okay, you may take the noble gases, right? And also for the say non-metallic elements. Non-metallic elements, which you should know. So what is the meaning of that? Say for example, this is one molecule, diatomic, and this is another molecule which is also a diatomic, right? And they are having the interaction between them, but there is no bond in between them. So if you want to know the radii, the van der Waals radii, so what you will do, you will actually take the distance of this one and distance two actually nearest atoms you will take, and you will measure the distance between them, right? And if you take the half of this, then this distance would be your van der Waals radii. So this is quite different actually. You see, if you are talking about the covalent radii, it simply means this is the bond distance, okay, and this half actually is your covalent radii. But in case of the van der Waals radii, these atoms are not connected actually, they are separated somewhere, okay, and which I have shown you here actually. So this distance actually which I am highlighting here, you see this distance, this actually, this whole is your covalent van der Waals diameter, and if you take the half of this, which is this one, okay, this actually your van der Waals radii, okay. This is something very, very important which you should know. So what is the definition? One half of the distance between the two nuclei of the two non-bonded and identical neighboring atoms of the adjacent molecules in the solid state. So what is the meaning of say this is actually in the solid state, this sample is in the solid state, and in this solid state you are having this molecule, you are having the another molecule, okay, and these two nuclei actually are not bonded together by any chemical bond, but they are adjacent to each other, and we are taking the half of the distance between the two neighboring adjacent atom in the solid state. That would be your van der Waals radii. I hope this is clear to you. And remember one thing, since there is no bonding involved in it, so the important thing is that your van der Waals radii actually will always be lower than, say I can write here, van der Waals radii is less than covalent radii. So I am writing here covalent radii. So it is actually smaller. No, it is not a smaller, very sorry, I made a mistake. Since there is no involvement of any bond, it should be actually greater. So you can see here it should be greater actually, right? So van der Waals radii is always greater than the covalent radii. And the example is this. Say you are having hydrogen molecule, okay. So for this hydrogen molecule, if I remember correctly, covalent radii is 37 picometer. So I am writing CR. CR stands for the covalent radii. Okay, I should write radii here. And if you go for the van der Waals radii, then it would be quite large, somewhere around 120 picometer. So this is something very, very important which you should know actually. I hope this is clear to you. Now we'll see the factors affecting the covalent radii. How there is not much of importance in describing the periodic variation of van der Waals radii, but of course we will discuss the factors affecting covalent radii, okay. So I can write factors affecting covalent radii. So they should be only 1 d radii. So what are the factors actually? Okay, this is something very important. So point number 1, number of shells is directly proportional to the atomic radii. Of course the covalent one. Okay, so what is the meaning of that? Say for example you are comparing carbon with your chlorine. Chlorine is 17, so you can write 2, 8 and 7 electronic configuration, and for carbon you will write 2 and 4. Okay? These are the different species. So here in that case, this is your K shell, this is your L shell, this is your M shell. Okay, and for this is your K shell, M shell. So here number of shells are larger actually, right? So the chlorine should have actually the higher covalent radii or the atomic radii compared to the carbon. However, there are certain things actually which actually you need to consider. Okay, so what actually I do to make it a little more clear, I am not actually writing a particular name of the atom. I can write, say, A having the atomic number of 6 and B having the atomic number of 7. So higher the shell, higher would be the covalent radii. This is something very important. Okay, so why I have omitted that carbon and chlorine? Because they may have the opposite relation, because periodic variation is something else actually. We will see later on. So what is the second factor, right? Second factor is the effective nuclear charge. So guys, you have already studied the concept of the effective nuclear charge. Okay, and then you have also calculated Slater's rules and all shielding constant with the help of the Slater's rule. So you are very familiar with the effective nuclear charge. So effective nuclear charge is inversely proportional to the atomic radii. Inversely proportional to the atomic radii. So what is the meaning of that? If effective nuclear charge is high, then the atomic radii would be less. It simply means that whenever if you have the higher effective nuclear charge, that means the positive charge is more in the nucleus, and when the positive charge is more in the nucleus, it will attract the electron towards itself strongly. Consequently, the electron cloud gets actually decreased. That's why the atomic radii decreases. This is something very important. And third point, which is another very important point, bond multiplicity. Bond multiplicity is inversely proportional to the atomic radii. Okay, what is the meaning of that? You may have the single bond, you may have the double bond, you may have the triple bond. Okay, so when bond order increases, then atomic size decreases. Okay, so here you see this is bond order which is increases, then definitely your atomic size, I am writing AR, atomic radii, it is decreases. So these are the factors which you actually consider, which you generally consider when you are talking about this your atomic radii or the ionic radii. Okay, now next thing, that is, say, periodic variation. Periodic variation of atomic radii. So what is the meaning of the periodic variation? When you move along the row, that means from left to right in the periodic table, then your atomic radii decreases, and when you go downwards, then your atomic radii increases. So it is just like that. You are having that carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. Okay, so it is 6, it is 7, it is 8, it is 9. So obviously you see carbon will have the higher size when compared to the nitrogen, nitrogen will have the higher size when compared to the oxygen, and fluorine will have the lower size. Why this happens actually? See, the reason is quite obvious. When you move across the period, effective nuclear charge increases. So across the period, effective nuclear charge increases. So how we can explain this thing? See guys, this is quite simple actually. Say for example, I am writing, say I'm writing carbon here, it is 6, that is you see 1s2 and 2s2, I can write in that manner, and 2p2. Okay, then I am writing the nitrogen 7, it is 1s2, 2s2 and 2p3. So in that case 7 protons are there, in that case 6 protons are there in the nucleus. So you see the extra electron in case of the nitrogen is added to the same shell, because it is your L shell, it is also your L shell. Okay, this is K, this is K shell, and these two are L shell, right? So the extra electron is added in the K shell, that means the distance is not actually increases, but the positive charge increases in the nucleus. This increases the effective nuclear charge, and when the effective nuclear charge increases, it attracts the electron clouds towards itself, right? And consequently the electron cloud contracts and the size decreases. That's why this is the periodic variation. Now you can take another example. Say for example, you are having lithium here. Okay, after lithium you are having the sodium. Lithium is 3, sodium is 11. If you write the electronic configuration, then it would be just like that: 1s2, 2s1. For sodium it is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 and 3s1. Okay, so when you actually go down the group, so here you see the principal quantum number is 2, actually it is L shell. Okay, but here it is M shell. So when shell increases, the radii increases, which you have already studied. So this is how you can explain the thing. So this is your atomic radii. Now the second last thing which is left in this particular lecture, the concept of the ionic radii. Concept of the ionic radii. Okay, so this is something very, very important. So you should remember, cation is always smaller. Cation is always smaller than parent atom. Cation is always smaller than parent atom. What is the meaning of that? Say you are having the sodium 11. So you are having, say, 2, 8 and 1. Okay, and then you are having the sodium positive. You know how sodium positive is formed? See, the 11, when it loses 1 electron, it will form the Na positive, right? When it's formed the Na positive, it is having the only 10 electrons. Okay, so when it is having the 10 electrons, it is 2 and 8. Okay, so here you can see here, this is your K shell, this is your L shell, this is your M shell. In that case, this is K shell, this is L shell. So when you remove an electron from an atom, so one of the cell actually gets disappear. So when it disappears, obviously your number of cells decreases. When number of cells decreases, definitely the atomic or the ionic radii also decreases. That's why the cation is always smaller than their parent atom, which is something very, very important which you should know. Okay, and similarly if you go for the anion, say for example, so I'm writing here, anions are always bigger than their parent atom, which is something very, very important. Okay, so what is the meaning of that? It simply means if you are having, say, chlorine 17, so what you will have? You will have 2, 8 and 7. And if you are having the chloride ion, chloride means how chloride will form? Chlorine 17, when it will accept 1 electron, so it will form the chloride negative, it will have the total 18 electron, isn't it? So when it is having the 18 electrons, so configuration would be 2, 8, 8. So in that case, you see the number of electron increases. However, the shell is quite fine. This is K, this is L, this is M shell, this is also K, this is L, this is M. But now you see the protons are same. In that case, 17 protons are there. Okay, in that case also 17 protons are there, but in that case you are having the 18 electrons, in that case you are having the 17 electrons. So whenever the number of electrons increases and protons remain same, that means the attraction, force of attractions actually would be smaller, because negative charge increases. So consequently what happens, the electronic repulsion would occur, and due to this repulsion the electron cloud expands. When electron cloud expands, we say that the anion will always have the bigger size than their parent atom. So whether you can explain in that manner, that mean on adding the extra electron, it is acquiring the noble gas configuration, so electronic repulsion actually would occur. Due to this repulsion the cloud expands. This is the one way of explaining. Second way is just like that, number of protons in both the species, right? Number of protons whether in this species or in this species are same, but here in the anion the number of electrons actually are higher. So 17 electrons cannot actually attract these 18 electrons more effectively as they were actually attracting the 17 electrons. So consequently the electron cloud expands, which actually increases the size of the anion. Okay, so periodic variations are same. Again, if you move across the period, so decreases, your ionic radii decreases, and on down the group ionic radii increases. So what is the meaning of that? See, if you are taking about say your say chloride ion and your fluoride ion, okay, so obviously fluoride would be smaller, and when you take your say lithium, lithium, not lithium positive, we can take the lithium positive also, right? So just like that, say for example you are having say nitrogen negative 2 negative or nitrogen 3 negative. So in that case okay, what we can do, we can skip this example. It can actually can cause the confusion, but you should remember this thing actually, right? When we go down the group actually. So we can take say oxygen 2 negative, and we can take sulfur 2 negative. Okay, so you know this actually oxygen is having the atomic number of 8, and this sulfur is having the atomic number of 16, and if you add 2 electrons to it, that means making S2 negative, it would be 18 electron, and if you add 2 electrons to it, it would be 10 electrons. So number of electrons actually are higher here. So shells actually are higher. So for 18 actually you will have 2, 8 and 8, that is K, L and M. So shells are increasing, so radii will also increase. In that case 8, 2,8, that is K shell and L shell. Shells are less, so the radii decreases, right? So down the group radii increases, and across the period ionic radii actually here decreases. So this is the concept of the ionic radii. So I have given you a much more detail of these, right? These are quite sufficient for your BTech first year examination as well as for other examination also. Okay guys, so that's it for today.